Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday weather outlook for the southern region brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, sometimes atmospheric scientists, meteorologists, we wish we could go back and change a forecast. Throughout this week, we were focusing a lot on how the northern part of the United States was going to be seeing some severe weather, mainly due to this trough that was moving into the northwest. Going to give us some flow into this area that could just keep producing these repeated rounds of storms that we're going to be moving through a lot of the Corn Belt. In my video yesterday, I barely even mentioned what was going to be happening here in the southeast. And I even remember saying, well, we have such weak flow aloft that the chances for severe storms is relatively small. Well, look what happened. Not only did the Storm Prediction Center miss it, and not only did I miss it, but look at all the severe weather reports we had across part of the southern region here. Specifically, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky. We had 232 reports of winds. And those storms, as they came through, while they were amazing to look at on satellite, they put down some very locally heavy rain and at some locations, some very, very strong winds. And that's because we're at a time period, summer here, where we can have individual convective events every day that take on kind of, I'll say, a life of their own. In other words, the storm produces its own outflow, it produces its own lifting, its own trigger for new storms to develop. And we just saw that happening all across, especially the eastern half of our southern region. You're just watching here an animation from the day on Thursday where those storms went through parts of Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee. Then look back over into Texas. In fact, I just got to show you this. Sorry that I'm kind of a nerd here, but look at the outflow. See those arcing lines of very lightly colored cloud? That's the outflow of the thunderstorms originating in the downdraft, and they just propagated across parts of Texas, blowing up new storms as they did, while the tops of the storms were sheared off in this direction. That is some cool meteorology there. Okay, what did we end up getting out of all of it? Here's your last 72 hours of total accumulated precipitation. There was most certainly some localized flooding as some of these storms put down better than 3 to 4 inches of rain as they went over. But some of them just completely missed folks across the southern region. So some people are watching us going, what are you talking about, Snodgrass? We didn't get anything. Well, that's the hit or miss nature of our summertime convection. Now, as we move into the forecast here, we're going to start things off in general with higher atmospheric pressure sitting across much of the southeast. But with higher pressure sitting there, we've got so much moisture already in the soil, and the Gulf of Mexico is still giving us these dew points in the 60s and in the 70s that we're still going to be seeing chances for more storms very easily. Now, just to show you this again, let's kind of animate that one more time. Notice a couple of things. We got Alvin sitting over here. So this was briefly a hurricane. And then the trade winds are still quite strong, saying tropical activity right now will be suppressed. But let's go to the upper levels of the atmosphere and see what we've got, okay? We still have this same story where we have this deeper trough that's sitting here and this big ridge that's sitting everywhere else across the United States. And again, we still have relatively weak flow across much of the southern region. But we're still going to see a lot of activity in terms of thunderstorms over the next few days. I'm going to get into the details of those in just a few seconds here. Also, one thing we're going to be watching is what's going to happen underneath, right there, underneath this bigger ridge feature that's going to be keeping temperatures maybe slightly cooler than normal through parts of Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. Let's take a closer look at it here. Ready? Over the next 3 days, so here we are on Friday. In the upper right, we have Saturday, and on Sunday in the bottom here, we can still see a large region of the south in general risk of thunderstorms. Marginal risk today, right here in parts of Louisiana. We'll take a closer look at that in a few minutes. But again, we're just watching across the southeast chances for storms every day for the next 3 days. Why are we doing that? Well, let's take a look at our high-resolution rapid refresh model. Throughout the day today, across the southeast, widely scattered storms getting you through the middle of the day on Saturday as well. You can very, very clearly see the transport of moisture coming from the Gulf of Mexico. Look at it there, coming out of Florida, moving into the parts of the southeast. We're watching a complex of thunderstorms that may blow up on the Mississippi River right there around, Arkansas, Boot Heel of Missouri. Watch it again here, that will propagate to the south through Louisiana. And that's why this particular region we're watching carefully today for severe storms. So this will be happening. Watch this. This is late tonight and in the overnight hours. There it is. Now, I don't just want to show you the next, 36 hours getting out to midday Saturday. Let's go a little bit beyond that. Let's now watch our high-resolution NAM model. This will actually take us out the next 60 hours. And we continue to see these large thunderstorm complexes moving across much of the southern region. Watch it again. In fact, we're going to have to watch very carefully. This thing comes out of Iowa, goes into Missouri, then over to Arkansas. And it's actually flowing in this direction. Did you see it there with me? Watch right here. Look at that. Amazing to see this. This is what we're going to be dealing with for the next, well, several days, as the overall flow of the jet stream is doing something a bit more like this. So underneath it, a lot of just daily convective activity popping on the heat of the day, propagating on its own outflow, which means we have to now cast our way through each one of these stronger thunderstorms, all right? So, if we put it all together, just looking at the next week, so this takes us up to next Friday morning, we can see that our more organized storm systems are moving across the northern tier of the United States. But we still most certainly see a region in through here where there's unimpeded flow out of the Gulf of Mexico. We have plenty of moisture. The atmosphere is going to give us quite a bit of thunderstorms, and we're going to watch specifically this corridor right in through here, and I'll talk about that again in a few moments. Do notice as you get over into parts of the Carolinas where we have at times this year dealt with some drought, you do see some drier conditions, but we will still see on these lower to mid 90 temperature days where we get the thunderstorms popping in the afternoon. But let's take a closer look at some of the details here. Now, I don't often show you this animation, but this is what we call relative vorticity. It's spin in the atmosphere. And everywhere that you see color, you're actually seeing where the atmosphere is spinning in a counterclockwise direction. Now remember, the general flow of the atmosphere right now is doing this, all right? It kind of turns back around there. I want you to watch what's going on right here as I click play. Do you see that in general, there seems to be this little shortwave cutoff feature? I know it played fast, but you can see that the flow of the atmosphere in the early part of this forecast is mainly featuring this big ridge in the midsection of the country. See it there? There's a trough on the East Coast. There's a trough on the West Coast. But look at this little feature in parts of Texas. I've now got you out to next Monday into Tuesday that just kind of sits here and spins underneath it. See it right there? That's going to be bringing in some cloud cover. That's going to be bringing in more chances of rain. And that's why if we just step back here, you see that this region right in through here is wetter than much of the rest of the South. It is that little feature right there inside those circles I drew that is keeping that area cloudy and wet. Now, no tropical activity to be seen just yet, but it's that time of year that we need to be watching that as well. So when I animate this forward, this is not going to show you any major weather systems moving through the southern region, but you're just going to see flashes of green every day. Ready? Here's every 6 hours through the next 10 days. So you can see in the afternoon heat, look at that, just see the flashes of green every day? That is what we get when the jet stream is moved to Canada and we just get these pulses of heat in the day that pop off thunderstorms, and it's an everyday kind of nowcast event. So that's what we're going to be watching. What about week 2 specifically? Well, we've got here on the left the European ensemble and on the right the GFS. You can see that they're both trying to keep the Gulf Coast on a drier, overall on a drier picture here. But I'll tell you, we still have a wide open Gulf of Mexico. The storms are still going to pop in those areas. Certainly going to be wet in through this quarter, though, as you can see from both models. So take a good look at these two maps here. They show you what we're expecting in week 2. Now, what I want to do now is I want to turn my attention a little bit more towards temperatures and what we're getting in the longer term here. So we're going to animate forward the upper level flow pattern here all the way out through the next 15 days. And there's a couple of features, again, I want to stress to you here. If we just step this back, as we get into the end of this week and this weekend, yes, the ridge is firmly in place there in the central United States. But now, do you see the slight blue in here? This is that little cutoff feature that's underneath the ridge moving through Texas and moving through Oklahoma and Arkansas right there. Southeast, you're going to stay warm throughout this entire time period, warmer than average. But again, we've now seen model run after model run. If you watch my stuff every day, you know I've been talking about this. You see that by the time we get out to the 9th, 10th, 11th of July here, that the jet stream is really wanting to do this. And it's featuring this broader trough feature here. Now, why is that significant? Well, you know that extreme heat and you know that drought conditions often come when we build in a huge ridge into this section of the United States, okay? So if we get a big ridge in here, like we saw back earlier this spring when we went so long without rainfall in parts of the Southeast, that Southeast ridge shuts us down. We don't see that developing with time here, okay? So that means keeping the extreme heat at bay and not shutting down the precipitation is how we're looking at things through the month of July. Now, as we look over the next 5 days at temperatures, Remember, right in through here, that little upper level shortwave is going to be meandering around. Cloud cover and precipitation. All around it, above average temperatures. So the southeast, Corn Belt, and then getting back over here into the Four Corner states, above average. What about days 6 through 10? Still hanging on to that above average temperatures in the southeast. But you will have plenty of moisture. Storms are going to continue to pop in that area. But look, that little cool corridor right in through there is all complements of that little shortwave I just explained to you. All right. So southeast, you're definitely going to be on the warmer side of things. So what does that mean, by the way? We're talking about mid-90s, mid-90 temperatures across the southeast because of this, okay? As I stretch you out, this is now days 11 through 15. We can still see that this region hangs on to its slight warmer bias. But overall, during this time period, what did the flow pattern do? Well, remember, it started to do something a bit more like that. And that's why we start to see, well, less extreme heat pumping into parts of Texas. And basically the only place that stays above average is going to be here over the southeast where the temperatures will be warm. All right. Now, also another thing to point out here, just because I said it so many times, I want to just show you again, National Hurricane Center, next 5 days, not watching anything in the tropics. It is far too windy in the tropics right now. And as you saw my updates earlier this week, very, very dusty moving across this area. So we're going to keep that suppressed at least for another week or so. But we will be talking about next week how the Madden-Julian Oscillation may possibly help the tropical Atlantic get into a more favorable set of conditions to possibly start to see some of our first tropical systems as we move into July. So we'll keep you updated. That's why we produce these videos every single day. But I want to thank you right now for your attention throughout this week, and I hope you all have a great weekend. So from us at Nutrien Ag Solutions, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.